Hi, everybody. It's Dr. V. Welcome to tonight's episode. We're going to be talking about the mind-body connection tonight. So as you guys are rolling in, I'm just doing some tech stuff here to make sure that everybody can jump in and say hello. There. So I think I fixed it on the chat where you should be able to jump in and say hi. So if you're just rolling in, go to the bottom of your screen and there's a chat icon. Click on the chat icon and then you'll see a little chat box open to the right. Jump in and say hi. Perfect. Jump in and say hello. I think I fixed that where you can. Yes. Hi, Deborah. Deborah from Phoenix. Is it nice? I'll bet the weather's nice over there. Hopefully it's not so hot right now. Diane. Hi, Diane. Diane Moyer. Yes, I know you. Let's see what else I can do here. Perfect. Oh, yay. A bunch of you jumping in. A little chilly in Phoenix. It was cold here. I think it was in the single digits this morning over here in Park City. Super, super chilly. Yay. Heather. Heather from Denver. Welcome, welcome. So glad you're here. Perfect. We're just going to wait just a couple of minutes to let everyone jump in. And again, welcome to tonight's episode of Inner Circle with Dr. V. Haley, one of our lead coaches, she pulsed a bunch of people. She pulsed a bunch of you on what topic you'd be interested in, so that we can start really creating our episodes around topics that you want to hear about. And so many of you wanted to do the mind-body connection. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that tonight. Are any of you, while we're waiting just to let everybody come in, are any of you doing any mind-body work outside of working with us in our mind-body energy program? If you are, pop into the chat and let me know. And let me know what you're doing. Okay, nobody's doing any, I don't think. How many of you told Haley or responded to her little survey that you wanted to talk about mind-body connection? Raise your hand or pop it into the chat, because that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, is mind-body connection. Diane, Heather, Deborah, Nancy, any of you, did any of you see that survey that Haley sent out? Yeah, one person's raising their hand. Okay. So let's try this question, because I want to keep this as interactive as possible. How many of you are interested in talking about mind-body connection tonight? There's a little hand at the bottom of your screen. Raise your hand if you're interested in talking about the mind-body connection tonight. There's 4 or 5. Keep raising, because we've got like 15 people in here tonight. So I'm wanting to know if you guys are. And if you're not, if you're wanting to learn about something different tonight, I don't know if we can do it tonight, but if you're interested in a different topic, pop it into the chat so that Erin, who's helping me tonight to manage stuff, we can write that down so that we can set up our next talks. Deborah just had a great mind-body session with Rosita. Isn't she amazing? She's absolutely amazing. Rosita is just such an amazing, powerful woman. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. I know. It's the work that Rosita and Carla and even Anne and Greg and I are all trained in, is really, really powerful work. I'm not doing it with the clients every day, because if I was, I wouldn't be able to create all of the content and the teaching material that I'm creating for all of you all the time. But we've all been trained in these different teaching modalities, and they're so powerful. I mean, life changing. No joke. Yes, Deborah's interested in bioenergetics. Yes. Okay, so Susan said she's a godsend. She really is. She really, I think, I tell her all the time, Rosita, I don't think you're human. I think you're an angel in a human suit. I think she is, because just she's so, so, so powerful. How to work with diverticulitis. Oh, Alicia, are you struggling with that? That could be a good talk. So one of the big things with that, before we get into the mind body stuff tonight, one of the big things with diverticulitis is diet and getting inflammation in your gut down. You probably have a ton of inflammation in your GI system, which is just makes the diverticulitis worse. Okay, so we have a small group tonight. What I'm thinking, I'm going to see if I can do this. I don't know if I know how to do the tech. I'm going to bring you guys into the room with me, because we've got a small group. So let me just see if I can do it. Oh, here, hold on a second. Give me a second. That is not what I wanted to do. Give me 1 second. I'm going to bring you guys in. I want you to mute yourself, okay? This is why we do it like this, instead of bringing you all into the room, because people tend to not mute themselves, and then there's dogs and babies and all kinds of stuff in the background, and it doesn't work. But I'm going to try it tonight. We'll see how this works. So let me just bring everybody in. As I bring you in, make sure that you mute yourself. I'm sure there's a faster way to do this, but I don't know how to do it. I see faces. I'm trying not to take my eyes away from this list that I'm working on here. Is everybody in? I think I got all you guys in. Just bring yourself in. I'm whenever I click, you bring you into panelist. I think I'm almost done here. And if you want to keep your camera off, you're welcome to. I love to see your faces. So welcome everybody. I'm so glad that y'all are here. So we're going to be talking about mind-body connection tonight in this episode of Dr. V's Inner Circle. And as I was thinking about this and thinking about, well, where should we start? I thought, it would be really nice if we were able to maybe have I can see most of your faces. I've got a pretty big screen going right now, so I can see most of your faces. I thought maybe we could start with having you maybe raise your hand, not the virtual hand, your actual hand, so I can see you, and then I'll have you unmute, and then you can start the discussion by asking a question, maybe something you've been reading about, something that you want to know more about, maybe wanting to understand more about, like, what does that even mean? I think if we can start where you can start the question, then I can kind of take it from there, right? And then we can have more of an interactive discussion tonight. So who wants to start by asking the first question? Is anyone, I'm not seeing anybody raise their hand. We got a shy group tonight. Come on, ladies. Somebody's got a question. Somebody's got a question. Hold on one second. I'm going to the chat here to see. Susan, on the topic of mindset. Okay. Deborah, how do you undo the camera? Just click on the bottom left. There's a microphone and there's a video camera. And you can click on it and you can take your face off the camera. Or you can click on it again and it'll turn the camera on. And Jennifer Ruth, Joe Ruth, I brought you into as a panelist a couple of times. If you want to stay as an attendee, that's fine. I'll do it one more time. If you want to jump in as a panelist. Okay, so the topic of mindset. Let's talk about mindset for a minute. Oh my gosh. There's this song that I listened to today. It's one of my songs on my favorite list, and I love to listen to it. And in the song, it talks about how we've lost control of our minds and we're not living in reality anymore because we're living inside of our heads. Instead of living in reality in our bodies, that we're living in our heads all the time. How many of you can relate to that? You're like, we all know that our minds are going constantly, right? Like our brains have this crazy capacity to be able to be thinking of a million different things 24/7. Even when we're sleeping, it's like going to town. But how many of you are conscious of that you can get lost in your thoughts? Yeah. Like I see some hands, right? Like we're having conversations over and over sometimes, right? Like that's how that used to happen to me all the time. I would have these conversations over and over and over in my head, like playing out scenarios that had not even happened yet, right? Don't we all do that? Like, right? We'll play out all these scenarios. We're literally living in a different reality. We're not living in this reality when we do that. But a lot of us are so unconscious of that. Did you know that our mind is a tool? Our mind is not it. It is not us. Our mind is a tool. In this song, it talks about how the mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. Wow. When I first heard that song, I was like, oh my God, I'm adding this to my favorites list. This is so true. But most of us have allowed our minds to become the master. Why? Because of the way that we were raised. You know, we haven't been raised, right? And like nod your head if you agree with me, because, you know, I mean, if I'm saying something that's freaking you out, I want us to have a discussion around it. I don't want you to leave this conversation tonight and go, she said some really weird stuff that was really out there. So like, you know, if I see any heads nodding no, I'm going to bring you up and let's talk about this together. Let's have conversation. But the way that we've all been raised, would you agree that it's pulled us away from the essence, from really understanding the essence of who we really are as children of God? Now, we may call our God, Jesus, Yahweh, Buddha, whatever, universe, whatever, right? But I'm going to use a universal language, guys, because we have people from all over the world. And one of the things that I've learned as a practitioner who is very deeply rooted in her faith is that I respect everyone's model of the world. So your God can be black, your God can be white, your God can be female, your God can look like Buddha with the big belly. You rub it every time you come in that. I mean, it doesn't matter to me, right? Like, we have a creator, and it makes sense that our creators from all over the world are going to look different. The different cultures, they're going to sound different with the names, different languages, right? But if we can agree that like there is a creator, and as children of our creator, as children of God, I'm just going to use the word God because I was born in the United States, and that's what I'm used to hearing is God, that word. So as a child of God, I am the essence of God. You are too. We are a spirit in a human body. We get to borrow this flesh for a little while because it's a gift that we've been given, that we can have a human experience. You see, as spirit, we can't, as the essence of who we are, the child of God, as spirit, we can't have a human experience unless we're born into a human body, right? We can't experience like the emotions the way that we do. We can't experience the senses the way that we do. We can't experience our power to create our reality, which most of us don't even know we can. And we can always talk about that in another talk, but most of us have forgotten who we really are. We are children of God. We are all connected. We are all from the same light, the same energy source. When I say source, it's spirit. When I use the word energy, spirit, light, I'm talking the same thing, right? Remember, I respect many models of the world. And so we all will use different verbiage, different language to describe the same thing. And so because we've forgotten the essence of who we really are, we're not thinking with our heart. We're not thinking here. This is our higher intelligence that always has known everything. It is eternal. It is always there, right? We all know that. Maybe some of us don't agree that when we die, that we're not really dying. It's just the human body that's dying, and we're being released from the human body. I like to call it being born. I've witnessed a lot of death in my family. Both of my fathers passed, my cousin. I've had a lot of death, and I have changed the way I view death. I feel it as like a birth. It's a birthing. It's a birthing and a release from the denseness of the 3D world that we get to experience. It is a blessing to experience that here. But the reason I'm really touching on this and trying to hit it from every angle is because if we're talking about the mind and the topic of mindset, when we become aware, I mean, really aware, like mind blow, like the light bulbs really go off. When we become aware that our brain is literally just a tool, our mind is a tool to help us navigate the 3D world, but our real brain, our real mind, like our real essence, all the knowledge that we have as children of God, it comes here. It comes from here. And as women, I think we're probably more familiar with that than a lot of men are, right? Like we know, like follow your gut, your intuition. As women, right? We have strong intuition. We can call it intuition. We can call it our heart. We can call it our gut. I should have listened to my gut, but that's your higher self. Like that's your spirit self. That's your God self. And so, but because we haven't been taught that type of awareness from birth, we have really grown up to rely on our brains, and our brain is very limited in its knowledge. How many of you are aware of that? Our mind, our physical mind, what we use 99% of the time, I use it a lot less than I used to. A lot of the decisions I make for this business, I'm getting spoken to. I listen to this, and I've almost died several times. So it's like, I've learned to listen here. And when my mind shut down, when I got really, really sick many years ago, and I literally couldn't even think, I feel like God was blessing me and saying, look, Elena, you've got lots of degrees. You've got all this stuff going on. You've got a brilliant little mind, but your mind is killing you. Like, stop, just shut up for a minute. I'm going to just stop the mind. I want you to feel here. I want you to take a breath and feel what's around you. And this happened to me over a decade ago. And since this happened, I am so aware of what my thoughts are. I know how to manage it as a tool. It is a servant to me now. This is a servant. with its doctorate degrees and its bachelor degrees and its master's degrees. It's my servant now. It's not my master. When this was my master, it almost killed me many, many times. It drove me to being very, very sick. Our mind is so limited in its knowledge. Think about this. Our mind, the physical part of our brain, it's like a computer. Very similar, only it's not just mechanical, it's biochemical. It's really cool. There's electricity running through here, just like a computer, but there's also a lot of chemical reactions running through here. And there's all these wires. And just like a computer, it keeps making itself smarter and smarter and smarter, learning new knowledge, but it can only learn based off what it learns. So the town you were born in, the areas where you've lived, the things that you've witnessed in your lifetime, the schooling that you've had, all the different education that you've had, the movies that you've watched, right? Am I right? Like, our mind is so finite. And when we realize that can become very, very empowering in our healing process. Because a lot of the things that we think we know, we really don't know. We know enough to get ourselves into trouble oftentimes. When we lead with our mind, this is where we can get ourselves into so much trouble, and where we keep hitting the dead ends, and we keep cycling through the same issues over and over. How many of you read my article in my last newsletter in November? The article, so every month I do a newsletter. How many of you are aware that I do a newsletter every month? Oh my God. Okay. I'm going to show you how to navigate that, but you have to remind me. I'm going to show you how to navigate it and find it on my website. So if you miss it, we send it out in an email every month, usually within the first 10 days of the month. And if you're missing it, let's make sure that you reach out to Erin or somebody on the team to make sure that you're getting our emails. But if you miss it, we have an archive of all of the newsletters. And every month I go in and I write an article from my heart, something that I got to download in a dream, something that I feel like God was telling me that I needed to speak on. And sometimes it's just purely education. Sometimes it's purely from here. A lot of times, though, it's coming from here now, because this is where I know that this is my time that I'm supposed to be speaking from my heart, using this as a tool, using the science that I've learned, but really speaking from here to help you. And last month I did an article on, have you noticed a cyclical nature in your life? How many of you have noticed a cyclical nature in your life or somebody that you know? Yeah. I know some people who 20 years later, like I know this one woman, she's on husband number 6, same story every time. She marries a really nice guy, super cool guy, but the same thing happens every single time and she ends up a divorce. She's like a broken record, right? Poor thing. And I mean, she just hasn't become aware of her cycles. Some people with their job, they have the same cycle. They get a job, they work so hard, they work harder than everybody else, and they probably do. And then they end up, something weird happens, and then they end up getting laid off. And 30 years later, it's the same story. My paternal father was like that. He was a really hard worker, super brilliant. He was like MacGyver. He built some different specialty things on the NASA space station back in the 1970s. And his whole life, and I witnessed this, and this stuff got passed on to me as a trauma. I had to get this stuff worked on because it started happening to me too, because I started carrying around his stuff. But he would like work really hard, be the top at what he was doing, and then a recession would come and he'd get laid off. And then he would have couldn't find a job, went into depression, then he'd find another job. And then a year later, 2 years later, the project would end. And instead of them hiring him on full time, he'd end up getting laid off again. It was like one of those cyclical nature. A lot of us will have this happen. Do you know what? Do you know the science? Do you want to know the science behind why this happens? Do you guys want to know? Now, this is where my brain comes in handy. This is where my brain is a really good tool. I can tell you the science behind why we have this. Now, I wrote a whole article on the cyclical nature of why people stay in their suffering. They're on that broken record of suffering, or they're on that broken hamster wheel. They can't get off. They're like, same shit happening all the time. Oops, I said a bad word. So, but the science behind this, let me tell you how the science behind this happens. And I can even do a presentation on this if y'all want to. Like we could do a part 2, like in 2 weeks if you want to. But have you guys seen my presentation on the amygdala hijack where I show how the brain gets rewired? Okay, so you guys have seen that. You rewired your brain. So when the initial event happened to you or to the individual, what happens when an event happens? We create a whole story around it, right? So I can only guess the story that my father had created around the first time that he worked his butt off, created brand new stuff that was going to be used in NASA space station for the rest of human history and all this stuff. Then he gets laid off, right? No money, can't buy groceries, like whatever. I can only imagine the stories that my dad created around that stuff. Can you imagine? We all do this. This is what our brain does because our brain wants to figure out how to not have it happen again. But unbeknownst to us, the brain rewires in a way that it happens again. We end up creating it again because what happens is we create a story around it. Everything that we experience in our life, our brain creates a story around it. Number one, okay? That story, most of us are very unaware. And our minds are, I like to call my little mind, she's so creative. She used to create all these scenarios of like doom and gloom and like all these horrible things happening. Oh my God, my son's going to come home from school one day. He's driving. He's going to get hit head on, cancel, clear, delete, all that. He's going to get hit out. I used to create stories like this all the time, guys. I didn't know. I wasn't in control. My mind was the master. It was a terrible master. So what happens is when we have an event happen in front of us, or we experience an event, and the event could even be a movie or a song, or you're watching somebody else go through an event, we create a story around it. As soon as that story gets an emotion attached to it, you have just rewired your brain and your neurology in your mind and your body. You've rewired it in such a way that you're going to recreate that story over and over and over again, and you're going to make it happen in your reality. Now, how does a thought with an emotion that's attached to it, how does it create a reality? That's physics. This is quantum science. This is the future of medicine. But the cool thing is that it's not just future of medicine. How many of you have spent a considerable amount of time studying I'm going to guess most of you here are Americans? Are most of you Americans? Okay. How many of you have spent a considerable amount of time studying theology or the Bible? I did that. When I was a kid, I did it. I did it all the way through college and then again in my 20s. And let me tell you why, because I was looking for answers. Because I had I call it a colorful life. Colorful meaning a lot of shit happened in my life. And I was looking for answers and salvation. And I was just I wanted to be saved. Like, I was like, Jesus, I believe you. I believe in you. Like, just, I want my life better. So I started studying the Bible outside of church. Why did I start studying it outside of church? Because churches have doctrines. And for me, that wasn't working. Every Christian church has a different doctrine. And I didn't care about doctrine. I just wanted to study what God had to say. So I started studying on my own. I even wrote some thesis papers, and I wasn't even taking theology. I started writing thesis papers on religion when I was in college because I was looking for answers. I saw myself suffering. I saw my family suffering. I saw other people suffering, and I wanted answers. Like, why was this happening to good people? And the science, I'm gonna tie the science to the spirituality here in just a minute, okay? The science is that when you create a story in your mind, we're creating a picture show. We're creating a movie, right? These conversations that you have, the stories, the broken record cycles, it's so detailed. It even creates an emotion. And if it's happened to you in the past and you solidified the story of what happened to you, and there was an emotion attached originally to that first story, the first time that you experienced it and created it, every time that you think about it for the rest of your life, that emotion's going to come back up, that same emotion. And the story just gets bigger and thicker throughout your years. And what you're not realizing is that you're creating new neurology. You're creating new highways that are 7 lanes wide and so thick and dense that you'll never get out of them unless you become aware. And even once you become aware and you start recreating new neurology, rewiring your brain and your body, it's going to take a lot of work to rewire. So the spirituality behind it, and I didn't go to theology school. I'm just sharing from you how I was able to connect the science with the religion. Because as a doctor and a scientist for me, and somebody who believes in God, for me, that's always been very important. I wanted to connect the two because they were used to be very, very separate. And I'm like, this is BS. Like, what the heck? I need to fix I need to figure this out. Not fix, I need to figure this out. And I think I figured it out, and I want to share this with you. So how does the science of what I told you, of what you're doing, how does that really create reality? Well, that's where I believe the spirituality side comes in. Now, quantum science can go into the details and explain it to you through mathematics and through all this other stuff. And I can do a little bit of that with you, but it's kind of hard to explain it because it's quantum. It's really hard. But on the religious side of it, God talks about prayer and the power of prayer. We've all heard that, right? The power of prayer. There's power in prayer. So when more than one or more than two are gathered together in prayer, it's super powerful, right? We've all heard of that. So when you're praying, what are you doing? You're meditating. You're focusing. You're focusing in on a desired result. A lot of times, that's what we're doing. We're focusing in on something that's a desired something. And there's usually emotion that comes with it. What we weren't taught in school nor in church was that when we desire something, like let's say that, we have a friend, cancel, clear, delete all this, but let's say we have a really good friend. She's like a sister to us, and she fell and broke her leg, multiple fractures, and she's in the hospital. And we're praying for her. All of us are praying for her. If we're praying for her for the outcome of that her leg is totally healed, that the surgeon can fix it, that she gets totally healed, that she can walk like nothing ever happened to her. If we're dialed in on that prayer, on that intention setting, and we have fear behind it, do you realize that we're going to create more of the non-desired result when you have fear? When you're praying out of fear, you are rewiring your neurology with an emotion of fear. You're going to create, that's not going to help your friend. That's not going to help your friend. That's not how it works, right? When you go into prayer with gratitude and love and that faith that you know that all things are possible in God's name, doesn't that empower you? And what is the emotion behind it when you set intention like that? Like, I know my friend Mary can heal because bones are designed to heal and the body is designed to heal. And this surgeon is good at what this surgeon does. This surgeon is going to take the best care of my friend Mary, and me and my community, we're going to be there to give her vitamin D and make sure that she gets everything that she needs, and she's going to be better than she was before. Versus, oh my God, please. And we're crying, and there's all this fear, and there's this sadness and all that. When you come together in prayer and you focus your intention with emotions of gratitude and love and healing, the desired result, how you feel with the desired result of your friend, you're going to have, that's where miracles happen, right? And so this is where science and spirituality comes together, because what you think about, your mindset, what you think about combined with emotion is where creation happens. And God talks about it in the Bible. Almost all religions talk about this in the Bible. But they also talk about it in quantum science. What you give energy to, what you focus on, you're actually creating in a 3D reality. And the quantum scientists talk about this. It's proven. And so this is where science and spirituality comes together. Now, we wanted to talk about mindset and how that affects us. But in order for you to really grasp mindset, I felt like we needed to give I needed to kind of give some groundwork on what mindset really is. And that's why I spent the last 25 minutes talking about the science of our thoughts combined with emotion versus the spirituality of our thoughts combined with emotion. Whether you're coming at it from a religious point of view or a scientific point of view, they merge together. Just like a puzzle, it's a perfect fit. It's no longer separate anymore. We've been able to come together and place one on top of the other, and we're like, this is one and the same. So now let's talk a little bit about mindset. Our mindset is everything. And in our mind body energy program, and even with the one-on-one work that our clients do, and with some of our other programs where they get to work on trauma and emotional release and rewiring our neurology, we talk a lot about consciousness and really becoming conscious of the essence of who we are, and really starting to resonate, which means really understanding with every cell of your body that our mind is just a tool and it's super, super limited. And if we only operate with our minds, we're always going to end up in a dead end rut every single time. We have to listen to our hearts, and we have to reconnect with our hearts. That's what's going to make us more conscious. Otherwise, you're going to always be living in your head, and you're not going to be living in this world having the human experience that God wants you to have, because you're living in your head all the time and you're not living in your body. Does that make sense? And so this is where mindset comes in. We can't just make a decision one day to change our mindset. Why? Because you've created all the highways already from the time you were born. You created these 7-lane highways of belief systems. That's where your mindset comes from. Your mindset comes from your belief systems, whether it's conscious or unconscious. Does that make sense? Like some of our belief systems, some of our mindset, the way that we think, once we become conscious enough, we can start diving and unpacking. Why do we believe the way that we believe? Why do we think the way that we think? Because you can't just will it to be a different way. So for example, I'm going to go back to my dad. So my dad had this mindset that you had to work really hard to make it in life. You had to just work really hard to make it in life. And you had to put everybody else first and show everybody what a hard worker you were and how you had to earn it so hard. A lot of us grew up like that. I grew up like that because my dad grew up like that. And I worked myself to the bone till I almost killed myself, because that's what I believed, because it was passed down in the generations. But that kind of mindset drove my father into having the same stuff happen to him over and over and over again. And he did work himself until he ended up having a stroke and a heart attack at the same time. And then he died after his third stroke. He never changed his mindset. In fact, his neurology got worse after his first stroke, which typically can happen. But it would be really, really cool if he were sitting here today with you guys and was open to, why do I think the way I think? Is that mindset of feeling like I got to put everybody else first and work my finger to the bone and earn it. And if I do a good enough job, they'll keep me on, that mindset never worked for him, but he never changed it throughout his life, nor was he aware enough to even figure out that the reason why this stuff kept happening to him on the broken record thing is because he was never conscious enough to realize what his mindset was. Once you realize what your mindset is that's keeping you getting the same results over and over and over, the next thing is like, oh my God, okay, how can I change it? Because you can't just say, well, I'm going to change my mindset and not believe that anymore. It doesn't work that way. your whole body neurology is wired that way, and it might even be wired into your genetics from your previous, like my dad probably got it from his dad. You know what I'm saying? He probably got it he was probably born with it, because then I ended up that way too. I broke those chains though, because I became aware, and then I started working on rewiring the neurology. And so when it comes to mindset, it's not as easy as just saying, I'm going to change the way what I believe in, or I'm going to change the way I think, and willing it to happen. It doesn't happen that way because of the way that our body neurologically is wired, biologically and genetically. And so we have to become aware. And then there are tools that we can use so that we can start to create new neurological connections. Just like in the amygdala hijack. Remember, I show you guys how the wiring changes. Well, just like the wiring can change to keep us on this endless cycle of suffering, we can create new neurological connections, new highways, so that we can start to have new thoughts of new possibilities. And with new possibilities comes new beliefs. And with new beliefs comes new mindset. And with new mindset comes what? New habits, different actions that lead to what? Different results. Does that make sense? So mindset is everything. But for somebody to just come out and say, well, it's just all about your mindset. You just need to change your attitude. You need to change your mind. It doesn't work like that, right? Like it doesn't work like that. There's science behind it. And that's why we like to teach the rewiring of your neurology. And in our mind body energy program, how many of you are taking that with us now? Are any of you on this? Yeah. So I'm so excited about this because we've been doing this rewiring of our brain and body neurology. We've been doing this with clients for like 7 years. And it was always so expensive. It just is. It's expensive. But I'm like, how can we, just like I did it with the biological stuff, teaching you how to heal your body. I'm like, how can we teach people how to do this? I went through all the training. I spent probably $40,000 going through training on this stuff. And I put my coaches through this training. And we're all like, if we can learn this, everybody else can learn this too. We don't need to charge I paid one day $15,000 for a 1-day breakthrough session. And it was worth every penny. I'll tell you what, guys, it was worth every penny for me. But I also realized that that's not affordable for a lot of people, right? That's just not. And so, and I spent a lot too. Like I chose to do that instead of like 2 vacations because it was expensive, but it was worth it. It transformed my life. And I did this after I did all the training. So I had all the tools. I still hired somebody else to do it for me, to somebody else to guide me through it. And so I'm like, okay, we need to teach people how to do this stuff. It's not rocket science. How can we bring the cost down so that, we're not certifying you in these modalities, but you don't need to be certified in the modality. It's just a stupid piece of paper that hangs on your wall. Maybe you need it if you're going to be training other people, but you don't need it to learn it for yourself and your own family. If we can learn these tools and modalities, how to change our mindset, you have everything that you ever desire right at your fingertips, just as God promised you. But the secret is that we got to learn to change our mindset. How do we change our mindset though? We've got to change the wiring in our neurology. How do we do that? We're teaching you in the Mind Body Energy program. There's a lot of tools and modalities that can be used to rewire your brain and body neurology so that you can change your mindset. But mindset is super, super huge in the whole facet of healing. If you believe you can heal, you can heal. If you believe you can heal, you can heal. They talked about that in the Bible. Jesus was traveling around on foot and donkey and camels back then, telling everybody, the hippie dude, Jesus hair with the Jesus sandals, right? I'm playing. I'm not being disrespectful. But my point is that he was teaching this stuff to us. And somehow it got diluted. It got diluted, I think, by doctrine. I think it got diluted by man. But he was telling you, believe and you shall see. Believe and you shall rise. It's, you have the power within you as a child of God. You can do this. And so I'm here today showing you that there's science behind what Jesus was saying. There's science behind it. And you have so much healing power inside of you that you don't even realize your healing comes from inside of you. 90% of your healing comes from in here, not from the protocols I'm putting you on, not from the medications. Certainly not from medications, because they don't heal anything, right? And so your healing comes from inside of you. And so teaching you how to rewire your neurology is huge, because if you can rewire your neurology for healing, health, vitality, abundance, love, you can rewire your neurology for those things. You will start to see it happen. It's going to be like a miracle every day when you wake up and you're looking around you. The other thing is that when you learn to use your mind as a tool, which is how you can change your mindset, because now you're leading your life from here. This now becomes a tool. You can become present, and you're not living in your head anymore. That's a different reality. That's not the reality that you're here to have an experience in. When you're living in your head, you're not living in this reality. Therefore, you cannot create. And you, as a child of God, you are a creator. And we're learning in quantum science and quantum physics that we do create our realities. We create our realities with our thoughts, which is a big part of our mindset, right? We create our realities with our thoughts combined with emotion. And then we take action on those things. And so, we're just super, super excited to be teaching people this work. Because the biological stuff is fun. I did that for years, and I still do, right? I mean, we still look at the labs, and we look at the genetic test, and I can teach you how to biohack, and I can teach you how to get over your SIBO, or how to get rid of your H. pylori infection, or how to get off of your medications if you've been on, antidepressants for 20 years or whatever. I can teach you all of that. All the biological stuff is cool. But do you know what's even more powerful than that is your mindset? It's your mind-body connection. But understanding and becoming aware that your mind is a tool, it's not the main brain. Learning that your brain is simply a tool and how you can use it to manifest your health is so powerful, ladies and gentlemen. So powerful, sisters and brothers, right? And that's when we talk about the mind-body connection, that's just something I just wanted to touch on with you. Does anybody have a question or want to elaborate on anything that I just talked about? Take yourself off speaker and just start talking.
Well, I just, I posted a bunch in the chat box, but I know that for me, my mindset, my emotions, because I'm an empath, I'm a very feeling person, and I know that this aspect of my healing is huge. And I had a session with Rosita today, and while I'm in the session, part of my brain is somewhere else talking to me saying, you need to buy a 6-pack of sessions with her because this is critical. And I don't have unlimited resources, and I'm already thinking, well, what can I do? And I do have some stocks that my dad left me. I mean, my health is worth it to me. I want to be a healthy human being. So I've decided that I'm just going to do whatever I need to do. But now I'm wondering whether I should do the Mind Body Energy program as opposed to just having sessions with Rosita.
Yeah. So this is a great question. Let's talk about this. So when you work with Rosita, she is going to work on you. You'll learn some tools and some things from her, but she's mainly going to be working on you. When you do our Mind Body Energy program, she's going to be working on you, but in a group setting. And believe it or not, it's just as powerful. Look at what Jesus did. I'm not comparing her to Jesus. But I'm just saying we all have those powers. We all have those gifts. Jesus didn't just work on one person. He was like doing crowds of people. You should see what Rosita does. Do not underestimate what she can do in a group. It is
Oh,
mind blowing.
I know. I actually, during the trauma masterclass, I was like a day behind. And so it was a recorded session when she led the group in her exercise, and it was incredible. I mean, I was moved to tears. It's super powerful. So I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah. Now in the mind body energy program, she will be working on you in a group. And she will be teaching you some different tools and modalities. But where the long-term magic is that's so incredible for you is the work that Carla is going to teach you. And I'll be in on some of those. Anne will be in on some of those because we've all been trained on this stuff. We're going to be teaching you how to use your conscious mind to use tools and modalities to have structure around instructions on how to rewire your neurology so that you can take yourself through releasing your emotions, through understanding and unpacking them, through getting the wisdom and the learnings from heightened emotional experiences and uncomfortable situations that have happened in your life, so you can gain the wisdom and the knowledge and the power, because that's what God put us here on earth. If we don't gain the wisdom and the knowledge and become empowered and step into our power based off of our life experiences, we're not fulfilling our purpose. You know what I'm saying? And so in the Mind Body Energy program, we're going to be mentoring and coaching you how to do this stuff. And you're going to get sessions with Rosita in a group. You could do the Mind Body Energy program. And if you want to add a 6-pack with Rosita, you can. And this is what I would do. I would go into the program and then save those 6 sessions for when you intuitively know or you're having a big breakthrough. Like a big breakthrough can feel like symptoms. Okay. And I'll share one of mine with you in just a minute, but it can feel like when stuck emotions, when emotions and trauma, whether it's generational that happened generations before you and it's still stuck in your body because you're carrying it forward until you break those chains, or whether it's something that happened to you in your lifetime, Susan, those emotions are powerful and they carry a very dense energy. They will literally go and get into certain organs of your body, which is what leads to disease, right? And when those emotions release, sometimes it can be very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. And when you're first starting to go through it, sometimes it can even be a little scary sometimes because it's the first time. Like, what if it's the first time that you're experiencing rage? I'll tell you my rage story in a minute if y'all want to hear it, just to give you an example of what it's like when an emotion gets released and starts coming out of your body and you're like, what the hell is happening to me right now? And so having those sessions with Rosita for when you are having something and maybe you just need that little extra, like, oh my God, I need to schedule with you right now. I'm having a big breakthrough. Remember, it's a breakthrough. It's a breakthrough. It's a good thing. You get to the other side of it. You're like, whoa, that was a big ride. But saving those sessions for her, she can help move you through it. She can help move you through it with more ease and grace and faster to help it to release. And that's not to say that we don't want you using the tools that you've learned, because they're powerful tools. We're teaching you what we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn, and we're teaching it to you. Like I said, you're not getting certified in it, but we're teaching it. And that's a huge gift to everyone who takes that course, because we're going to be teaching you all these tools and modalities, how to use them, like an instruction manual. So an example would be, let me think of one. Okay. So this was about 4 years ago. And I had just finished doing a really in-depth 2-week training. Plus I had finished doing that $15,000 session. Like, this all happened in the same, probably the same quarter of the year. Like, it was the last quarter of, 2018. I don't remember when it was. And I went through all this stuff. I started taking a deeper dive into the emotional healing and the trauma healing and all of that. And so I did a really big in-depth training and certification. Then I went and hired a coach who took me through a 1-day intensive. Then I went and hired another coach and I did a psychedelic experience. Do you guys know what that is? I did a psychedelic experience with a substance called MDMA. It's a heart opener. And it was to help me work through some of my trauma because I've had a lot of it and I've been working through it for years. And I thank God, because this is why I have my health back. I have my health back and I have a beautiful life because I've worked through all this stuff. And so I'm not afraid to work through it. I'm like, let's rip that Band-Aid off and let's do this. You know, that's how I go at it, because I know that on the other side of it, my life, God keeps giving me more and more blessings because I'm moving through it. I'm always ready to rip that Band-Aid off. And sometimes it's uncomfortable and I'll start crying, but it's okay. I'm like, I just want to get through it. Let's just give me the instructions. Where's the map? Let me go through. You know, I just want to get to the end of this. And so after I did all of that, I had a really big breakthrough. And it was my husband and I, we were living in the RV. We were in our RV, and because we wanted to, because it was fun. And all of a sudden I started feeling agitated. And this would happen to me all the time. I mean, like through my years, it was like a little like habit that I would get, but I never discovered what was really happening, what was underneath this agitation until that day. So I start feeling agitated, and I would start cleaning the house. And I would tell my husband, I'm just agitated right now. And I'm like down on the floor and I'm cleaning the floor. And then I'm like fixing the spices and I'm organizing everything. And a few cuss words were flying out because I'm like, God, I like the short stuff down here and I like the tall stuff up here. Why the hell does this stuff get all mixed up? And then I'm like vacuuming, and then I'm like doing the laundry and just all the things. Like, because then I have been doing this for years. That's how I would deal with my agitation. I start cleaning the house. And I never knew why I was agitated until that day. An emotion was ready to come up. An emotion was ready to come up and out. You know why? Because my unconscious mind, my unconscious self, my unconscious mind, I'll call that my spirit, my God self, my spirit, right? My soul, my spirit. That knew, Elena, you've had a lot of training now. You've had all the training. You know how to this emotion is going to cause you to get sick. We need to get this emotion out. My heart knew that. My spirit knew that. It's time, Elena. You've got the tools. You're going to be able to handle this. It's time for this to come out of your body. You've held on to this long enough. And all of a sudden, my husband looks at me and he goes, why don't you stop cleaning for a second and just feel? And of course, that brought me back to my training. Well, duh, of course, I'm going to feel it. Where do I feel it in my body? And I'm like, I feel it here. Oh, I feel it. Where else do you feel it? Is there a color associated? Like, is it moving? And I'm like, oh my God, it's growing. And I started crying as I'm saying this, right? Because it started getting really intense. And then I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm going to throw up. I feel like I have lead in my stomach, and it literally felt like I had a bowling ball inside my stomach. And I ran to the toilet and I started heaving and nothing was coming up. And it was so painful. I've never had it. Literally felt like there was a 25-pound bowling ball inside of my stomach. It was so painful. But because now I'm paying attention, I'm aware. I'm not covering it up anymore, right? I'm paying attention. Now my body's like, oh yeah, you're paying attention now? I'm going to show you how this has really been feeling for years, but you've been burying this, not letting me tell you. I need to get this shit out. Yeah, this is what it feels like. Yeah. And I'm like, And then I started feeling like my back was ripping apart. And then all of a sudden I saw a dragon coming out of my back, breathing fire, and it was killing people. And it scared the heck out of me because my brain then jumps in and goes, shame on you. You shouldn't be thinking like that. And then I started crying, right? I'm like, oh my God, why am I thinking that? Why is this happening? Why is there a dragon coming out of, and my back was hurting really bad too, because it just was so painful. And I'm like, and I felt ashamed. So then I had all this stuff that my brain was like, shame on you. You should never think like that, and I'm like freaking out. But my husband, and we had just gone through all this training, right? But I was in it. So I was having a hard time being my own doctor, right? I was being my own coach because I was in it. But my husband was coaching me. He goes, it's fine, Elena. Like, it's trying to tell you something. Just don't create a story around that, Elena. And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm not going to create a story. There's no shame in it. It is what it is. And then guess what happened? All of a sudden it became clear as day. I was feeling rage, and I didn't know what rage was because I was not allowed to feel anger growing up. I was not allowed to express myself like that. And certainly not rage. Only crazy people have that. But do you know why I had that? Because I had 3 policemen drug me and rape me when I was really sick and couldn't talk. And I had lost my memory. And I never processed any of that. How was I supposed to? I was losing my practices. I was a single mother. I was trying to pay the bills. I was running out of money really fast. I couldn't talk. I couldn't think. I was literally in the middle of losing everything. And I could not handle one more freaking trauma. So I never processed it. Okay. And so the reason I share this with you is because I want you to understand that as you go through your process of healing, it can feel uncomfortable sometimes. But on the other side of that, I started having the best poops I've ever had. My gut started working better because my labs always showed that I had a perfect gut. And I'm like, well, it must be emotions. I'll figure it out one day. Well, guess what? That day, I think I went to the bathroom 3 times after that. And it felt great. I wanted to just do the happy dance because I felt really light. Figuratively and literally, I felt lighter. So my gut started working better. My memory got better. I was more in my body. So my intimacy with my husband, I thought it was good, but I didn't know what was good until it was really good. And I was like, oh my God, I can feel you. What? This feels really good. And I started laughing and crying. This was like 2 days later when we were being intimate. We were having our sex. And all of a sudden I could feel him. But I didn't know I couldn't feel him because I never had any other experience to have a contrast, right? And I'm like, I was giggling and crying and laughing and all the emotions coming out. And what else happened? My energy got better. I felt more empowered. I felt more calm inside because that came out of me. But it was such a big emotion that was in my body, and it was here, and it was in my gut, and it was in my back. And when it finally came out, yeah, it was uncomfortable, but it transformed my life. And I'm not afraid of the emotion of rage. Look, everything that God has given us, there's nothing bad. Rage is not a bad thing. We've all been taught, oh, it's so bad. It is not bad. It is an emotion, and there are no bad emotions and there are no good emotions. There's only emotions. It's the stories that we create around the emotions that create more stories that make us suffer. And so as you work on your healing, when you start diving into the emotional and trauma release, come at it with curiosity and wonder at the power that you can hold inside of the power of the emotions that you can hold in your body for so many years. And yeah, it can be uncomfortable sometimes, but as you allow this stuff to come up and out, your body is going to heal in ways that it's going to seem like a miracle to you. And so Susan, maybe doing the mind, body, spirit, and then maybe buying a 6-pack and you just use it when you have I like to call it an emotional breakthrough. It's a big emotional ride, and a lot of us will have those, and it's okay. We want to celebrate those things, and then maybe one day like you'll be able to share your messes because your messes is someone else's guidance, is someone else's map to healing. And that's why I share these things with you. This is why I'm not afraid to share these things with you so that you can even see, I teach this stuff. I'm an expert. We are helping people around the world, but it's not just because we've been in training all our lives and we've never had the experience, right? Like a lot of us have had these experiences. And so, either way that you go, listen to your heart, maybe kind of let your head get out of the way, go with what feels good. Like create a scenario in your mind. Okay, well, what if I just did the mind body energy program? And then what does it feel like? Go here, listen here, right, Susan? And then, well, what if I just did this? What would it feel like? Well, what if I did both? What would that feel like? Because your spirit knows everything. It's in direct connection with God all the time. So God's telling you, and you'll feel it, right? You'll be like, yeah, that feels good. Whatever feels good for you, go with it, because you're never going to go wrong. If you get too much in your head, you're going to end up making mistakes along the way, which is okay. It's a part of our evolution as humans, right? But yeah.
Well, I'd love to do both the 6-pack and the mind body energy, but I'm coming to the end of my 12-month brain and body, and I know I'm not ready for gut repair. I just got the results of my tox bundle. And so I don't have my session with Anne until December 21st, I think it is. So I don't know what my options are going to be, because I do need still some biological work, I think.
This is the thing for you. You already have been in our program long enough for the biological work. So everybody, if you're wondering, she's going through the 12-month, she's been focused on her body, on healing, which the emotions heal the physical body too. We know that. But she's been focused more on the toxins that were making her sick, the foods, all that, right? Susan, honey, you've been doing this long enough. You know the protocol. You know the protocol. You don't need us day in and day out for that.
Okay.
You know how to do it. And then when you're ready to retest again, you know how to order your next set of labs. And if your mold already showed clean and your metals were clean and all you had left was chemicals, just order the chemical one. Unless you just got a really good deal on the bundle and you just want to order the whole bundle and then just keep the other ones and then take the one, right? But when you retest and everything is gone or almost gone, like you might have 2 chemicals left and you have hardly anything left, then you go into the gut repair. We will make sure that we send you on your way with your gut repair protocol. So when you're ready, you can do it. Or if you lose it, just message one of us. We're going to give it to you. You've gone through the program. I'm going to make sure that you finish with your gut sealing, because of all the work that you do, you got to finish with the gut repair, and we're going to make sure that you have that. I don't think that you need to hang on there. I think that we've taught you enough. You're empowered now. You've got the keys. We've taught you everything, honey. You know this stuff. And if you need something like, hey, I retested, I'm ready for gut repair, but I can't find the protocol. Can you share it with me? Yes, of course we're going to give it to you. Of course we're going to give it to you. And we're going to say, yep, do this for 2 months. There you go. Order that and you're good to go.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course.
Right. And I'm thinking, if I feel like I could use a little help in either my nutrition diet wise, which I definitely could use some help with that. I could reach out to Haley, or just, individual little, because I won't be getting the biweekly Zooms or any of that stuff. So
yeah.
Well, in the body, mind, body, and energy, I would be, but not the other.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And you've learned so much about the nutrition also, so 90% of the people are going to do fine staying on an anti-inflammatory type diet for the rest of their life. That means staying away from crap food, staying away from stuff that's not really food, staying away from sugar, staying away from gluten, staying away from, there are certain things that just will make everybody sick. And then there's about 8% of the population, 8 to 10, that really need a more specialized type of diet. And, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing that you're falling in the 90 percentile. And if you're falling in the 90 percentile, it's not going to be hard for you to eat more on the healthy side. You see where I'm going with that? You've already learned, these are the foods that we typically want to stay away from, right? There literally are only a few people out there who really need a lot deeper work beyond a year on their nutrition. You have enough knowledge now. You could take it from here and you could expand on everything that we've taught you by coming to these types of sessions. Maybe one night we'll be talking about lectins or whatever, or listening to my friend Dave Asprey, who founded
Bulletproof Coffee.
He founded Bulletproof. That guy's crazy. He's a friend of mine. That guy's crazy, but he started out like you. He started out like every one of you. He started out, he was just a dude. And then he wanted to optimize. He wanted to get himself better and optimize. And now he's considered one of the biohacking experts of the world. And this guy has like 0 degrees in that stuff. But he just like you, he took the information that he learned, and now he's one of the top health and wellness experts. He runs around in my circles and he's not even a doctor. I mean, there are a lot of people like that actually. And so you don't have to be, you do not have to be a doctor. You do not even need a bachelor's degree to take what I've taught you, to take what my coaches have taught you and expand on that, and then turn around and you can come and be a guest teaching our people. You've learned enough. It's just how much do you want to dive into it? Some people are like, I just want to know enough to keep myself healthy, but my purpose is doing this. But then there are other people who are like, this changed my life. I found my purpose. I'm going to expand on this. And you do not have to go and spend thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on degrees to get good at what you want to get good at. I promise you that.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. Anybody else? Did you guys get a new perspective on like the whole thing around mindset? Have you ever heard anyone talk about mindset like that before? Probably not. No. Did it make sense? Like how I put all the pieces together like that? That's how my mind thinks. I love having conversations with people who get me, because they can finish my sentences and they'll take it deeper than I do. But yeah, so mindset is critical in your healing for all of you. Just finishing out for the night. Mindset is one of the biggest pieces of your healing. It's one of the biggest pieces. And remember, it's not as easy as just saying, well, I'm going to change my mindset. It takes a little bit more work than that. But the good news is that it can be done. And you can rewire your brain and neurology, not just for healing and vitality, but for abundance in every area of your life. And when you gain the consciousness that your mind is a tool and that you're living inside of your body, this is not you. This is not me. This is the body I get to inhabit, right? This isn't me. Now that I have the consciousness of that, I also have the consciousness to create my reality, and I see miracles happen in my life every day. So I have so much gratitude and appreciation, because every day I wake up and there's something I'm like, oh my God, how did that happen? Wait a minute, I've been manifesting that for like 2 years. Holy shit. Oh my God. Like every day is a day like that for me. Every single day is a day like that for me. Every day. Because I've spent years rewiring my neurology, and what I've learned that took me years, you guys can do it in 6 months to a year, because of the way that we're teaching you, So you could always go, any of you could hire, healers like Rosita, and you can go and have it done to you, or you can really step into your power and learn how to do this stuff yourself. That's where your power comes in. I believe that that's what God wants you to know. He wants you to know how to utilize your vessel while you're here, so you can live out your purpose and reconnect with your purpose. Well, I love you guys. Thank you for joining. Feel free to, thank you, Christy. Thank you for your message. And you know what? I can't follow all the messages in the chats because I'm talking to you guys and thinking. Thank you for joining me. Feel free to bring your friends. We're going to be sending this out now that I've gotten a few of these under my belt. We're going to be sending these out to our bigger email lists of people who follow us. They may not be working with us, but we want them to have exposure to this kind of stuff too. Maybe they can't afford it to work with us, or maybe they just haven't chosen to yet, or whatever. But it's really been on my heart to make these types of candid discussions more available. So the group will probably be growing. Please continue to join me. Let us know what topics that you're interested in. Be active in the Facebook group. If you are on social media, be active in the Facebook group, because Haley is posting questionnaires like, what topics are you interested in? What do you want to learn about? I might even sometimes bring in an expert speaker. Who knows? I might have Dave Asprey on here one day talking about peptides or something. You never know, right? Like, so let us know what you want to learn about so that we can keep it relevant. And, I'm always open to hitting any topic. Just let me know what you guys want to hear about. And like I said, Haley is pulsing all of you so that we can know what it is that you guys want to hear about. Thank you. I love you guys so much. I'm so glad that you're here and that you're taking care of yourself and that you're looking for answers and that you're open to possibilities. Because if you stick with me long enough, you're going to really, really deeply understand how being able to rewire your mind and your neurology for new possibilities that's what's creating miracles. That's what's creating miracles around this planet. And that's what's going to help heal this planet. It's what's going to help heal all of us and our generations to come. So I love you so much. I'm going to go play with my grandbabies. They're out there waiting for me. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.